have to remember what it was like before. For a full quarter of 1969, the #1 album in the country was a soundtrack to Hair. The music that made its way to the charts back then, and which fills out the OK Boomer soundtracks of movies about the 60s today, wasn't speaking for how life actually was on the ground for a Michigan resident raised by a working-class family, and whose only prospects were 30 years on the already dying assembly lines or the front lines of Vietnam. But then, 10 days before the opening of Woodstock, a single solitary album changed all that. It was a boot pressed firmly between the eyes of every peace sign flashing beatnik. The album was a commercial bomb, an embarrassment to the suits who signed the group, and called stupid in pages of rock magazines. It never cracked the top 100, but it influenced, known or not, every angry album of noise that came since. Without it, you don't get glam, you don't get British or American punk, you don't get pop punk, and you maybe don't get the evolutions that happened to bring us every type of metal music. Thank God, and Michigan then, for the Stooges' 1969 self-titled debut. Less than 2 years after they formed, the Stooges were signed to Elektra Records and were sent to the studio to capture their raw Detroit muscle on their debut album. Their producer was a recent art rock king, John Cale, fresh off his time in the Velvet Underground, where his artiste sensibilities meshed with Lou Reed's misanthropy to make the first 2 Velvet Underground albums. Case studies in taking a label's money, doing something that no one done before, and paying the cost for it with low sales, which the Stooges would soon follow. But here's the thing that boggles the mind. The version of the Stooges that has been a part of rock history for 51 years? That's not the first version of the album. The one that exists is actually the cleaned up one, the one meant to appeal to the squares, the one assembled when what they originally recorded was deemed unreleasable by basically everyone. See, John Cale knew that the Stooges were noisy and grimy and sinister, and he mixed the original version of the Stooges as such. It sounded like it came from the dark end of an alley in the worst part of town. The head of Elektra Records, Jack Holtzman, rejected Cale's mix, remastered the album with singer Iggy Pop, and released the version that changed music, despite being a bomb. The Cale mix, however, lived only in the hearts and minds of Stooges fans for more than 35 years. In 2006, that changed. A private collector approached Rhino with take-home tapes that seemed to be alternate mixes of all the songs on the Stooges, in the track order proposed by Cale. No one knows how these tapes ended up where they were, but what matters is that they ended up at Rhino, who released the tapes on the 2010 reissue of Stooges. However, that version was mastered 10% slower than the lost tapes were intended to be played. The speed was finally corrected for the 50th anniversary edition of the Stooges in 2019, and for the first time ever, the John Cale mix is on vinyl where it's belonged, as its Vinyl Me Please Essentials Record of the Month for April 2020. But it's one thing for us to tell you that the John Cale mix is more chaotic and sinister, and it's another for you to hear it. So while you decide if your record collection has the constitution to handle the John Cale mix of the Stooges, here you can hear I Wanna Be Your Dog in both its original John Cale mix and its actually released form. Take it away, Ig. John Cale mix of the Stooges is now available as the Essentials Record of the Month at Vinyl Me Please. The lacquers were cut by Bernie Grundman, and it comes on blood red Galaxy vinyl. You can sign up at vinylmeplease.com/essentials.